Oh, my Kindle is dead. What a great way to start off this video. I'm gonna admit something terrible. I have not read something in such a long time. I've been in the hugest book slump. I read An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir a while ago, and then I tried to pick up Violet's Things by Chloe Gong. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now, and I don't know what it is. Nothing wrong with Violet's Things. I actually really like that book, but for some reason, I just fell into a book slump. So my solution to that problem is to go ahead and read on my Kindle for a week. So welcome to this new video where I will be reading on my Kindle for a week. I'm going to be taking a break from my physical TBR. I'm going to be reading brand new books. Hopefully that will pull me out of my book slump. But first, I'm gonna have to charge my Kindle, so I'll get back to you when this is all ready to go. I thought I would go ahead and tell you the 3 options that I have because I don't know which book I want to start off with. But number 1 is actually Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. Now, apparently, and I haven't touched my Kindle in a long time, I actually had started this book a while ago and then I soft DNF'd it at 29%. I do not remember anything in this book and I don't remember why I soft DNF'd it, but maybe that's an option to get back into it. So number 1, Daisy Hates. Then the other option that I have is actually the infamous Silver Elite by Dani Francis. Now everybody's talking about this and I'm gonna be so honest, I am getting FOMO. So I was like, okay, maybe I should pick up Silver Elite by Dani Francis. And last but not least, I was thinking of picking up the Hollow Boy series by Monty J. It is a dark romance series. I hear so many good things about it and everybody says that if you like the Devil's Night series, which I love the Devil's Night series, that you should go ahead and pick up this book. So I may pick up the first book of that series. Actually, I'm gonna throw in a 4th option here because everybody's also talking about Beautiful Venom, I think it's called, by Irina Kent. Now, I've never read a Irina Kent book. I actually do not come across a lot of Irina Kent videos or book recommendations, but for some reason, everybody's talking about this one, so I feel like I should start it too. And then I was also thinking of an Emily Henry book, so that's actually 5 options. So we're gonna see what I end up choosing, but I don't know, I am leaning towards like a romance just to start off because one thing about me is that I pick up romance, or did I say fantasy? No, I said romance. I don't know why I'm psyching myself out, but one thing about me is that I pick up romances and I read them very, very quickly, and I just think that they are such a great palate cleanser for me, so maybe that's what I'm going to do. Well, it is the next day. My Kindle is all charged up, and it's also a very, very gloomy Sunday, so the lighting is not the best. But last night, I had such a hard time choosing which book I wanted to read, so I decided to put everything on a wheel. As I mentioned, it is Sunday, so I'm going to count this as day 1 of my reading on my Kindle for a week. You know what? I just realized my Sephora bag is in the back. Hold on, I'm going to move this. Alright, no distractions. But anyways, as I mentioned, I had such a hard time, so I put everything on a spin the wheel website. So we're gonna spin the wheel together and decide which book I'm gonna start off with. I truly have no preference, but I will say that I do have a little bit of FOMO because everybody's talking about Silver Elite. And then I will say also that Daisy Hates, not that I don't want to read it, but I feel like if I start off the week reading it, I'm just gonna take forever and I'm not gonna get out of my book slump because I DNF'd it for a reason. And I think it's because this book is a lot more character driven than plot driven, and I realized that I am definitely a plot driven reader. Let's just spin the wheel and see which one I get. Okay, please focus. My camera never focuses. Okay. Which popped up? Daisy Hates. We're gonna spin this again. Okay, we're gonna spin this again. Silver Elite. Okay, honestly, I feel like I cheated a little bit, but you know what? We're gonna start off with Silver Elite because, as I mentioned, I'm getting FOMO. And also, as I mentioned, I just don't want to start off with Daisy Hates. Maybe I'll read it later in the week, but I think to start off today, I'm gonna start off with Silver Elite so I could get myself going. I ended up falling asleep for a little bit while I was reading, evidently, because look at my messy bed. It was just because the rain was honestly so soothing. But I did make it to the 14% mark, and I thought I would just give you my initial thoughts and reviews of the book so far, especially because I'm just going to end Sunday night now since I have to get ready for work tomorrow. But before I get into my thoughts and reviews of the book, I want to do a quick little disclaimer. This is the same disclaimer that I always give when I do reading vlogs, which is that I am a very easy reader in my opinion. I usually enjoy all the books that I read, and I just want to say that your opinions are your opinions, my opinions are my opinions, and they may be a little different, which is totally okay. I welcome any and all discussions about the book, so feel free to comment if you're reading any of the books that I'm reading, but just be sure to be super respectful of other people's opinions. Also, this will be a spoiler-free vlog as well. But getting into the book review, again, as I mentioned, I am 14% in, and you know what? I am enjoying myself. This is a very action-packed and entertaining book so far. It starts off with a bang. There's even already a character death, which I know we're only 14% in. Now, fun fact, I actually do not know a lot about this book. I kind of went into it completely blind. All I really know is that it is a dystopian new adult book. It follows Ren, who is a modified individual, which means that she has some type of powers that was caused from some type of like nuclear like destruction, something like that. And in this world, modified people are not good people, or not that they're not good people, but the government doesn't like modified people. Now, speaking of Ren, she is a very fiery female character, but I feel like that's all of the female characters that I've been reading recently, so right now nothing really sticks out, but I do enjoy reading from her point of view. I don't know if this is just from her point of view or if there's other people's point of view in here, but I actually really enjoy. I think so far my only complaint about this book is that there's just so much info dumping. There's a lot of substance, and I feel like sometimes it's necessary, but sometimes it's so unnecessary to the point where it just pulls me out of the scene. Well, I'm just gonna give a really bad example. The main character, Ren, she would have to put up her shields or something like that, but not only does she put up her shields and explain to the audience what shielding is all about, she'll go into this long backstory about how her uncle Jim taught her how to shield, and he did so many practices with her, you know, did this with her, did that with her, and then suddenly it'll go back to the scene and she's like, okay, yeah, so now I just put up my shield. And I don't know how to explain it, and I understand they're trying to form a connection between her and Jim and then show like how she learned about it and everything, but I don't know, I feel like there could have been a better way to incorporate it. Actually, I have another complaint, which is that Ren thirsts over every single guy that she meets, which, okay, fine, understandable. Like, I will also appreciate a good-looking man, but every person, and also, is it not your enemy? Like, she's literally sleeping with like the enemy, which, okay, you know what, that's the plot of like every single fantasy book that I've been reading, like romantasy book that I've been reading. I don't know how to explain it. Like, she just talks about how much she hates these soldiers, and then she goes and she sleeps with them, and, which is wild, by the way, she would say, yeah, that's all they're good for. What? Okay, I don't know. Okay, no thoughts about that other than that, but I don't know. Those are my two complaints. But other than that, I am very much enjoying the book. I'm hoping to finish this book by Tuesday, maybe, so I can start another book. But that is it for now. Good night, everybody. See you Monday. Happy Monday. I look a hot mess right now, but we're not going to talk about it. But I've been reading while I've been on break, and a couple of things. Number one, right now I'm getting such major whiplash because Ren just figured out the identity of Cross and his family background, and you would think that she detests him. Actually, in fact, she specifically says that she detests this man and she hates everything that he stands for. But then, I'm not kidding you, a page or so later, she talks about how sexy this man is and how she loves his body, his voice, the way he talks. Like, miss, please, did you not just say how much you detest him? Like, you hate him and then you find him sexy? I mean, I guess you could do both at the same time, but my goodness, I'm getting whiplash. Like, I'm not kidding you. She says, I hate this man, I hate everything he stands for, he's the worst person ever, and then next thing you know, she's like, this man is so sexy. Like, please, stop. This is a very awkward camera angle, but I've been munching on these crunchy cookie M&Ms. They're amazing, just a little bit sweet in my opinion. Whatever though. I came back with a little bit of an update. I am at the 30% mark. Two things. Number one, I love Kane. Like, he is just such a fun character. I hope nothing bad happens to him, and I hope he's not a bad character either. And then number two, I think I figured out who Wolf is. I don't think I mentioned this before, but Wolf is this character, and this is not a spoiler by the way, because I think she mentions it within the first chapter or so. Wolf is this character that Ren knows, and they speak to each other telepathically, but they've actually never met in real life. They just happen to have this mental link. Wolf is this big, like, secret identity. I think I have figured out who he is, but I could be wrong, who knows. But if it is the person that I am thinking, that is the most predictable plot thing I've ever seen. Other than that, I am enjoying myself. There hasn't been a dull chapter yet, but again, I'm only 30% in, so who knows. But every single chapter has been so action-packed and entertaining so far, so I really am enjoying myself. I do not trust Cross yet, and I know he's going to be the love interest for this book. I mean, that's a given, but I don't know. There's something about him that I am not entirely convinced. It's not that I don't like him, but it's not like I like him at the same time. He does have his moments where I'm just like, oh, that's so cute, but then there's some where I'm just like, I have a very weird feeling about Ro. I mean, already the vibes are off with Anson, but there's just something about Ro that I don't know if I can completely trust him or not, because on one hand, he's very honest and blunt with Ren, which I appreciate, but on the other hand, he just has such an uneasy vibe to him. Even Ren describes him as uneasy, and I just can't tell if he's like a good guy or a bad guy in this. I mean, I guess you could say all of them are bad guys because they I literally hunt people who are modified. So, oh my gosh. Okay, I just finished chapter 22. I'm at the 43% mark right now, and I'm at the scene at the rooftop with Ro, Anson, and Fatima. I cannot believe that I just read that. I cannot believe that that just happened. If there's one word I could use to describe this book, it would be addicting. Because guys, I had so many things I wanted to do today. I had to do chores, I wanted to exercise, didn't do a single one of them because I was too busy reading this book. I could not put it down. I'm telling you, I don't think there's ever a dull chapter. Each chapter is so action-packed. I'm currently at the 79% mark right now, and it is nearing midnight. So I've been reading for a hot second, and I thought I would share with you some of the highlights of what I read since I last picked up the camera. Starting off the whole final trial to get into the Silver Elite. I'm gonna quote Ren on this. It was so simple and also so stupid at the exact same time. And I'm gonna be so honest, I actually feel so bad about the outcome, especially with the parent being there. I don't know, I just feel like some of their fates was not deserved. We also get a scene where they go back to the hamlet, which is Ren's old childhood town. And there was this big thing there. And first of all, I also did not like that scene at all. Not that I didn't like it, like the way it was written, but I didn't like it because it was just so terrible. Terrible to the characters. And I feel like one character, well, they deserve their fate, but the other character did not deserve their fate at all. I just genuinely feel so bad and so betrayed for this character. But anyways, I'm gonna go to bed now. I just cannot wait to read this tomorrow because just so many things are happening. I'll tell you right now, it was a challenge last night having to put this Kindle down after reading the chapters that I read. But you know what? This morning I woke up early before work and I read the last 10-15% of this book, and now I can say that I have finished Silver Elite. It's currently 8:30 in the morning right now. The ending of this book was so crazy that I need to sit and marinate with my thoughts. So I'm going to do my full review of all the books I'm reading this week at the end of the video. Also at the end of the video, I'm going to include a little bit of a spoiler section because I really want to talk about this book and all the books that I'm reading about this week freely with spoilers. But wow, let's talk about the last 10-15% of this book, because the last 10-15% of this book in itself could have been a whole other book. I'm telling you, it was absolutely crazy. So many things were happening at the end of this book. Like, there were characters that I didn't like that I suddenly liked. There were characters that I liked that I suddenly didn't like. There were characters that made appearances that I didn't think I would see again. There were characters spilling secrets left and right. Ren was being dumb, stupid, impulsive, everything under the sun. There were there were plot twists that were happening left and right and left and right. I'm telling you, it was so crazy. And of course I knew that this book would end on a cliffhanger because it is the first of a series, but I just didn't expect the cliffhanger that it did end on. And I will say I'm a little disappointed with that cliffhanger. I didn't like it as much, and I didn't really like the ending as much either. I kind of thought that it would go in a different direction. I'm gonna go head to work now, and in the meantime I'm going to think about what book I want to read next, because I think after reading this I realized I don't want to start too mmany series, so I may try to read a standalone. Maybe I'll read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, but who knows, we'll see. It's been a couple of hours. It is Tuesday evening right now, and I did in fact end up picking up Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Now, I'm actually not going into this completely blind. I do know a little bit about it. Everybody talks about Book Lovers when they mention Emily Henry, and so I knew I had to pick it up. This book follows Nora. She's a literary agent from New York City. She's a super big workaholic, so her sister decides to drag her out to the North Carolina mountains as a little retreat, but there she keeps coincidentally running into her workplace rival. He is this big editor at this publishing house, and just things go from there. Now, I'm actually 19% in, and I didn't know that I read this much. I'm only on chapter 5, so I feel like this is a relatively short book, or at least compared to Silver Elite. It's been a long time since I read just a romance book, so I'm actually really excited, and I am really excited to start an Emily Henry book. If you have a favorite Emily Henry book, you should definitely let me know, because I would love to read more of her books. I'm actually, though, going to take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to do all the chores and exercising that I didn't do yesterday. I'm so sure I'll be back with an update because I am enjoying this book so far. Hello and happy Wednesday. It's actually quite late into the day right now, and I did not do as much reading as I would have liked. However, I'm here with an update. I'm currently on chapter 21, which is about 56% through the book, and guys, I am loving it so far. More specifically, I'm loving the banter between Charlie and Nora, the two main characters of this book, because I don't even know how to describe their banter. I don't want to say the word quirky, maybe witty if anything. It's just that the responses that they say to one another is just something that I would never think of. It's so unique, it fits them so well. I feel like Charlie really does read Nora, and Nora has these like secrets, and like she has a very unique personality or complex personality, but Charlie knows everything about her in a way and can respond to her in such a perfect way. Also, I feel like I relate to Nora in a way, the way she loves her checklist. She's a workaholic, she cares deeply about those around her, but then to other people she could come off as what they call a shark. So far, my first Emily Henry book is a success because I am really enjoying it. So unless the last 50% of this book suddenly turns into this big, I don't know, kerfuffle? I don't know why I use that word, but you know what I mean. Unless it takes a big turn, I think I'm gonna rate this pretty highly. I have been trying to do a lot of Goodreads updates, so you do not follow me on Goodreads, it will be linked down below. This is a very shameless plug, by the way. At the moment, since I am on chapter 21, I'm very suspicious of Libby, who's Nora's younger sister. I feel like there's something going on, and I feel like there's a deeper reason to why Libby wanted to take Nora all the way to Sunshine Falls. So I guess we'll have to see. But I'm probably going to read a little bit more, and I did want to start listening to the audiobook as well, so maybe I will do that. But for now, this is my Wednesday update. One more thing that I forgot to mention in the other video are the coincidental meetups between Nora and Charlie and their little moments that they have with one another because they're so cute. They have me giddy. I sit there and I read and I have the biggest smile on my face. I'm just like hee, you know? For example, if you know, you know. The whole scene with her in the water, then there's the scene with her and Blake, and then the scene with her and Shepard, and then Charlie's there. And I can't even form words. I'm just so giddy. Hello and happy Thursday. It has been quite the day. I've been in and out, running errands, hanging out with some friends, but I did in fact bring my Kindle and I read quite a bit. I'm currently 78% through the book. There's been a big reveal, and the sun is suddenly coming out, wow, but there's been a big reveal, and I wasn't really expecting this reveal, to be honest, but I had to put this down because I was reading this in public and then I kind of knew what scene was gonna happen next. If you catch my drift, I had to put the Kindle down. I didn't want to read that in public, but I am continuing it again right now. One thing about me is that when I read books, I always imagine the characters as some type of actress or model just so I could put a face to the name, and I don't know why. And I keep trying to stop myself. I keep imagining Charlie as the dad from Coraline. I'm gonna put a picture up right here. But the thing is, I know he doesn't look like that, but for some reason my mind automatically goes there. I have a feeling I'm going to finish this book soon, and all I'm gonna say is that I hope they end up together. Update, I'm currently 84% through the book right now, and something just happened that I was not expecting at all. And now I already have some theories and predictions forming in my mind of what the ending is going to look like, and if one of the theories or predictions that I currently have come true, I'm gonna be really upset because I feel like it won't fit this character at all, or it doesn't fit this character at all. I don't know, I think I just have like a very particular ending in mind, but I guess we'll have to see because as we saw reading Silver Elite, a lot can happen in the last 15%. Alright, it's been 2% later in the book and I have a new theory now, and I hope they go through with this prediction because everybody will have a happily ever after, and who doesn't want a happy ending? Also, I feel like it's an ending that all characters deserve and it fits best. Oh my gosh, I knew it! I called it! It's getting a little darker, the sun is setting, but I just finished Book Lovers by Emily Henry, my first ever Emily Henry book, and you know what? I loved it. I guess you could say that I'm a big book lover of book lovers. Was that too cringy? I don't know. I'm so glad though that I read this, and I really did need a good romance standalone, so I'm glad I picked this up. Emily Henry is definitely going to be one of the authors that I pick up in the future. Like Silver Elite, I need some time to just think about the review for this, so I will not give my review until the end, but I'm sure you could tell I really enjoyed this book. But now on to the next book. It is a little bit later into Thursday night, and I decided for the next book I'm going to be reading, we're going to be doing a little bit of a genre change. There's this book that's been on my TBR. It is called The Midnight Game by Cynthia Murphy, and it is in fact a young adult horror/thriller. Now, thrillers I can do. Horrors, on the other hand, I'll admit it right now, I am a big wimp, and even though this book is young adult, if it gets too scary, I'll tell you guys right now that I am going to DNF the book. But for those of you who do not know what The Midnight Game is about, it follows 6 kids who meet each other on Reddit, which is this horror messaging forum. They decide to meet up in real life to play the Midnight Game, which is to summon the Midnight Man. The reason why I'm picking this up is because I do want to broaden my reading horizons, so we'll see if I do like horror. Thriller I like, horror we'll see. But I thought this would be a fun read, so I'll pick this up later before bed, which may not be the best idea if I'm going to be completely honest, but I am excited to read this. Alright, I started the Midnight Game. I'm currently 12% in, and I have some initial thoughts. So right now in the book, they are currently grouping together, they're going over the rules, and already I have a character that I do not like. Her name is Tony, and she is so rude, specifically to May, who did nothing at all. And what's even worse is that I'm literally reading Tony's chapter at the moment, and I just want to skip it. Now, this midnight game reminds me a lot of Bloody Mary. I don't know if you guys have ever played that or heard of it, but that is when you go into the bathroom in the dark, and I think you chant Bloody Mary into the mirror like 3 different times, and then she's supposed to show up, something like that. Talking about it makes me actually scared. But this midnight game and summoning the Midnight Man reminds me a lot of Bloody Mary. Maybe this honestly is not a book that I should be reading at night. Hello and happy Friday, you guys. Last night I made it to the 35% mark before I made the executive decision to put the book down. Not that it was scary or anything like that, but they were making the classic horror mistake, which is splitting up, which first of all, why would you ever split up? So after they did that, I was like, yeah, I cannot continue reading this because I already know something bad is going to happen. So I put the book down and now I'm continuing it again. It is after work, it's 5 p.m. and I'm at the 45% mark right now. Of course, the tension is very, very high. There's a lot going on at the moment. And there is that one character who always tries to purposely mess it up for everybody, so this person is really getting on my nerves. This book is rather fast-paced. It's quite bingeable, so I think I'm going to finish it tonight. I was thinking to myself, there is no amount of money you could pay me to play this game. I wouldn't play it with friends. I wouldn't play it with family. I just can't imagine playing this game, let alone with strangers, because they're all strangers, by the way. They met online. Like, I don't know. There's no way I'm summoning a demon with a bunch of strangers, basically. But anyways, I am going to continue reading this. I have a feeling, like I said, I'm going to finish this tonight, and I will keep you guys updated. I have made it to the 62% mark, and it took a turn that I was not expecting. Like, I was expecting this deadly turn, but not really the way that it happened. And now I have my suspicions on certain things, because is the Midnight Man real, or is it one of them who's actually doing all of this? Not even 1% later, and I am absolutely shocked. This book has so many twists and turns that I'm not expecting. Maybe it's because I also don't read thriller and horror on a day-to-day basis, but I'm floored. Hi, this is just me interrupting, not really related to the book or anything like that, but I was thinking, if there was something happening and there was some paranormal activity, there was a ghost in front of me, something was happening, just know I'm dead. I am dead. There is no way that I would be able to survive that or fight that, because I would give up. I'm too scared. Like, if there was a ghost in front of me, like let's say Slenderman or something like that, I'm sure we all have heard of that paranormal myth or something. If there was like Slenderman in front of me, I would give up so fast. I wouldn't even bother turning around and running, because my chances of survival, 0. I'm at the 85% mark right now, and I cannot believe my eyes. But you know what? If I had to choose any of the characters that I think would have remained standing, I would have chosen them. Hello, update. I just finished the book, and I just finished the epilogue, and I don't know. I think I was expecting something else for the epilogue, or a little bit more context, a little bit more background, especially about some of the characters. I think I'm going to talk more about that in my review, but overall, this was such a bingeable book. I just can't stop thinking about this one character though. Ugh, I feel so bad. Just a little FYI, I am in fact racing against the setting sun at the moment, but now that we've made it to the end of the week, it means that it is time for the reviews. I'm going to split this up into 2 parts, so I'm going to start off with the reviews, which will not contain any spoilers, and then I'm going to move on to the spoilery parts. I'll keep the timestamp somewhere here so you can see, just in case you want to skip around or look for a specific book, but if you're here to listen to me talk about all 3 books, then let's get started. So as you guys remember, we started off the week with Silver Elite. We spun a wheel. I obviously cheated because I spun 2 times, but you know what? I have no regrets about that, by the way, because I had severe FOMO because everybody was reading Silver Elite and I also wanted to read Silver Elite. I remember I did a terrible job at explaining what Silver Elite was about, so I'm going to do a quick recap. I'm also looking off to the side, by the way, because I have my notes here. But Silver Elite essentially follows this world where there are primes and there are mods. Primes are people without power. Mods are people with some type of mental cognitive powers. Now the main character, Ren Darlington, she is in fact a modified, and she's been hiding with her Uncle Jim and trying to pretend that she's a prime until there's an incident, and then she basically gets thrown into this military task force, and so she's trying to blend in to the primes while being modified, and her entire goal is to get into one specific task force within the military called the Silver Elite. Of course, along the way, she makes friends, she makes enemies, and she gets intertwined with the captain of Silver Elite, aka Cross Redden. Now, I know I mentioned this, but this book is a lot more romance than it is dystopian. I definitely do see some dystopian aspects, like I definitely get some hints of Divergent. If you're going into this expecting dystopian ideologies, the dystopian issues or all the issues that I brought up in dystopian books. You're not gonna get that. Honestly, what it is just a romance book with dystopian aesthetic. Basically, all in all, what I'm trying to say is that this book is mainly romance. But with that main point being said, I think I also said this, but I did go into it blindly. I had very low expectations going in, and you know what? Guys, I enjoyed it. It was addicting. I couldn't put it down. Now, Ren, she is your usual fiery female character. She's also uber powerful, of course, and very, very cocky. This book does take place from her point of view, and I did like reading her point of view, but I did have one small complaint, which is that she does not fail ever. She basically had no flaws. Like, okay, yes, she was impulsive, little reckless, little impatient. I guess you could count those as being flaws, but she fully acknowledges that, and that's kind of part of her personality. I don't even think there was ever a time where she was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't think I could do this. Like, she genuinely did well in every single training module or training simulation. And obviously, because she's so good at everything, it became very predictable. So I kind of predicted a lot of things that would happen in these training modules. Now, speaking of a little bit predictable, we're going to move on to the romance, because the romance, I mean, this is not a spoiler, by the way, it is between Cross and Ren. This one, you kind of saw it coming. I mean, there's like no way that you did not see this coming. Also, there was another aspect in this that I definitely saw coming as well, and I'm going to mention that in the spoiler section. Now, if you guys have heard of Silver Elite, then you may have also heard of all the controversy around Silver Elite, such as, you know, the mixed reviews, and then there is the mysterious who is Danny Francis, and then there's another one that I just found out recently, by the way, and this is already after I've read Silver Elite. There are AI allegations when it comes to this book. Now, nothing has been confirmed, nothing has been denied either, but I'll say it right now. If this is an AI written book, I rebuke everything I just said. I'm gonna take it back. I do not support AI at all. But if this is not AI and Danny Francis actually wrote this, then you know what? My review still stands. But overall, I enjoyed this book. It was addicting. I understand why people may not like it, but I personally liked it. I thought it was a quick, fast-paced read, and that's all I was really looking for. Now, moving on to the next book, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is my first ever Emily Henry book, and I know I've probably said that like a million times throughout the video. Now, this book follows Nora. She is a workaholic literary agent in New York City, and she goes on a vacation with her younger sister Libby to Sunshine Falls, which is a small town in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. The whole point of her going on this trip with her younger sister is to just try to repair their sister bond, like how it used to be when they were younger. Now, going on to this trip, they have a checklist, so there are things like horseback riding, skinny dipping, going on hot dates with locals, because that's just the type of person Nora is. She loves the rules, she loves checklists, she loves being prepared. But one thing that she is not prepared for is meeting Charlie in this small town. They coincidentally keep bumping into each other and having these little meet cutes, but you find out very, very quickly that all the meet cutes that they had in the past were never really cute. I'm not necessarily going to call them rivals or anything like that, but you could tell that there's some tension there. Now, if I had to use one saying to describe the book, it would be, to be loved is to be known. Because this book perfectly encompasses that, and I'm getting so giddy right now just thinking about it, because truly Charlie knew Nora like no one else. Like, he could read her like a book. They always knew what to say, and they were both very witty in their responses. The banter, oh guys, don't even get me started on the banter, because their chemistry is off the charts. I love their chemistry. Now, I will say that this book was a little bit predictable at times. I mean, there were so many book tropes in here, and I don't know if that was the whole point, because this is like a book lover trope, so I don't know if all the tropes in here they were on purpose or not, but I feel like it was a little bit predictable because of that. But as we already established, I don't mind predictability. Now, even though I love the chemistry between Nora and Charlie, I do feel like at the beginning it was very quick, I would say. Like, there was a slow burn of them like getting together, but there wasn't really a slow burn in their attraction, if that makes sense. Now, this book does take place from Nora's point of view, and you really do get a sense of her personality right off the bat. Now, I did read some reviews about this, and some people thought that Nora was a little overwhelming at times, but you know what? I love Nora's character, and it may be because I relate to Nora at some level. Overall, though, this book was great. I love this Emily Henry book, and I look forward to reading more Emily Henry books. Now, last but definitely not least, we have The Midnight Game. This is definitely a genre switch up from the previous two books that I read, but The Midnight Game follows 6 teenagers who meet up after talking to each other on this online forum for horror fanatics. They meet up to play the Midnight Game to summon the Midnight Man. Now, this book definitely has a lot of twists and turns. Some were very predictable, some were not predictable at all. And this is, by the way, coming from someone who doesn't usually read horror or thriller. I thought the writing was really good. When you go into each chapter, you get a clear sense of who is talking and the character that it's from without the author even saying who it is. If you read this book, I feel like you may agree with me on this. I feel like the book definitely started off as horror, horror, and then it started leaning more into the thriller aspect, and then the end suddenly did a quick switch up and then it kind of did a mix of both horror and thriller. Not that I'm complaining about that, by the way, it's just an observation that I had. Now, I did get spooked because I read it late at night, and truly I just have a wild imagination, but now that I'm thinking about it overall and I've had some time to really let my thoughts marinate, I don't really think that it was too scary. Like, truly, I think that it was more gory and graphic, if anything. Definitely, I encourage you to read the little warning that the author included at the beginning, because there is some gory and graphic scenes in there. But also, every single time you read a book, you should definitely be reading the warning page. Overall, I did enjoy reading from everybody's point of view. Yes, there were definitely some characters that I did not like, but I feel like when you read these type of books or even watch these type of movies, you're bound to like some characters or dislike some characters more than the others. This was definitely an entertaining and very bingeable book, by the way. To sum everything up though, I enjoyed this Kindle reading week so much. I'm so glad that I picked up all the books that I did, and I do not regret reading any of these books. I also recommend all the books that I read. With the reviews being done, we're gonna hop over to the spoiler section now. Alright, now for this section we've all been waiting for, or at least I've been waiting for this section. I don't know if you've been waiting for this section, but I've been waiting to talk about the spoilers for such a long time now. So welcome to the spoiler section. I'm gonna include a list of the timestamps somewhere here on the screen so you could see when I talk about the specific book spoilers. Feel free to skip around, or you could watch the entire thing if you want to listen to all the spoilers. I'm gonna start in the order that I read these books, so I'm gonna start off with the Silver Elite spoilers, and of course I had to start off with the main plot twist, which is Cross being Wolf. Guys, that was the most predictable thing ever, and I clocked it since the very beginning. When Wolf appeared on the page, I was like, this has to be Cross, like there's no way. And of course it was Cross, and honestly part of me kind of wished that it was a different person. Like, I kind of wish that Wolf was a complete stranger, or even someone like Kane, but maybe I'm a little bit biased because Kane is my favorite character. But I don't know, I feel like just Cross being Wolf was just so predictable. I mean, if I could predict it, then you guys could definitely predict it. And if you are able to predict it at the beginning, then you kind of already have that in the back of your mind when you're reading it throughout the book. So when the plot twist actually happens, it's not really a plot twist. Now, I have nothing against predictability. Like I said, I'm totally fine with it being predictable. I actually do think that it helped a lot with their emotional connection, because I feel like Ren and Cross at the beginning of their relationship, it was mainly physical. But then once they had that big reveal and they found out that they were Wolf and Daisy, then it kind of became a little bit more emotional, and then they realized that, oh yeah, I actually really do love this person. So in that sense, Cross being Wolf, I guess, is a good thing. Now, speaking of predictability and my favorite character ever, Kane, I was not expecting him to be a mod, number one. I was not expecting him to die, and then I was not expecting him to come back to life. Like, I genuinely thought that he actually died. I didn't know that he faked his death, and he was part of the uprising and all the things. So when I read that last chapter and Kane popped up, I was like, oh my god, Kane. Also, speaking of Kane, why do I feel like Kane and Ren had more chemistry than Ren and Cross? I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's Kane and his flirtatious personality, but I just feel like Ren had more chemistry with Kane than she did with Cross. Like, why did I feel like it was so stoic the entire time? Actually, you know what it is? I feel like Ren and Wolf had a lot more chemistry than Ren and Cross. Yes, I know that they are the exact same person, but for some reason, like even after the big reveal, I feel like she had a lot more chemistry than Wolf than she had with Cross for some reason. I don't know, maybe you guys don't agree with me on that, but that was just my opinion on it. I think that is all the spoilers though for Silver Elite. So now we are going to move over to the spoilers for book lovers. Now, I actually don't have many spoilery thoughts about book lovers, besides one, which is that I predicted that Libby would take over the bookstore and Charlie would move back to New York City with Nora. But what I didn't really predict was that there was going to be like, what, a 2, 3, 4 month time gap. Like, I kind of expected that Libby would decide to take over the bookstore while they were both still in Sunshine Falls. Like, I didn't expect for there to be such a big time gap. Gosh, I can't speak. I didn't expect there to be such a big time gap before they were reunited again in New York City. I think I mentioned this in the review, but there's this saying, to be loved is to be known. But there's also this other saying that I was just thinking about, which is that if you love someone, you let them go. Because I think at some point in the book, I remember Charlie saying to Nora that he loves her a lot, but he does not want her to stay in Sunshine Falls with him because she has dreams to fulfill in New York City. And as a reminder, Charlie had to stay in Sunshine Falls to take care of his parents and to take care of his family's business, even though he really wants to be with her and he'll try to make things work. Like, he would never want her to stay in Sunshine Falls with him. And I don't know, I just feel like that is like the embodiment of if you love someone, let them go. Because he'd much rather have her leave and go back to New York City and her fulfill her dream than her to stay in Sunshine Falls with him and just be miserable. But that is all the spoilery thoughts I had for book lovers. I don't really have any additional thoughts for it. I think I said everything I needed to say in the review. So moving on to the Midnight Game though, I have a lot of spoilery thoughts about this. First off, this was a wild ride. 6 players went in, 2 players went out, 4 players died. And now the 4 players who died, let's go over them, shall we? Because one of them was a 14-year-old girl. Now 4 players died, 2 players died by the hands of another player, and then the other 2 players died because of the actual Midnight Man. I won't lie, at first I thought that the first 2 players who died at the hands of another player, I thought that they had actually died because of the Midnight Man, but turns out at like the 60 maybe percent mark of the book that there was actually a killer amongst the 6 of them, which of course predictably it was the most aggressive teen there. Now the Midnight Man, he actually didn't come into play and actually start like killing people until the end of the book, and I think this is where my complaint or my observation really starts, because I feel like this book should have either leaned all towards thriller or all towards horror. Now hear me out on this one, hear me out. I feel like if the author chose a path, they would have been able to expand a lot more in terms of the context and the background information. For example, why did the murderer murder all these people? Like, was he just sick in the head? Like, why? Like, what was his motivation, basically? And then same, like, if you lean more towards the horror and the paranormal activity side of it, what is the origin of the Midnight Man? Like, why does he kill people? Obviously, besides breaking the rules, like, what do they do with the body? Like, things like that. But I feel like because it was like a mixture of two, like, yes, we had this psycho killer on the loose, and then yes, we also had this paranormal activity ghost on the loose too. Because we had both of them, you couldn't really expand upon both of their stories at the same time without making the book super, super long. Also, this is a standalone, I believe, but the epilogue leaves room for another little sequel, because that whole 11 Mile horror game that they were talking about too, which is another game that the 2 main characters, they were talking about. Like, I would actually read a whole book about that game. I think that's also one of my favorite parts about this, because when you were reading the book and you would get to the internet subreddit conversations, sometimes they would actually post links to other horror games, and they would actually dive into the rules of the other horror games, so you would also be able to read it. I also thought that that was very, very fascinating. But okay, that is it for all of the spoilers. Again, I really enjoyed this little Kindle reading week. Definitely something I would do again. So if you have any book recommendations for me, send them my way. All my socials will be linked down below, so if you want to follow me, you definitely can. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you made it this far. I have a feeling this one's going to be a long one. But thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!